I didn't realize it was strange at the time. When you're a kid, you don't question patterns, you inherit them. You don't stop to ask why certain things feel normal and others don't. You just move through the world the way everyone else does and assume that's how it's supposed to be. Looking back now, I understand that some habits aren't taught, they're absorbed. Welcome back to Cursed Whispers. There was a street in our neighborhood that none of us ever stayed on. We walked through it every day. We crossed it on the way to school, on the way to a friend's house, on the way to the small shop at the corner. It was part of our routine, so familiar that we barely noticed it. But we never stopped there. Not to tie our shoes, not to wait for someone, not to talk. The moment we stepped onto that street, something subtle changed. Our pace picked up without anyone saying a word. Conversations faded out naturally, like someone had turned the volume down. Someone always glanced behind us once, quickly, never enough to look obvious. At the time, I thought that was just how people walked there. The street didn't look dangerous. That's what confused me later. It had working streetlights, clean sidewalks, and houses that looked lived in. Curtains moved sometimes. Cars were parked along the road. It wasn't abandoned or hidden. It was visible, ordinary. I remember one afternoon when I tried to stop just to see what would happen. We were walking home together, joking about something stupid, and when we reached the middle of the street, I slowed down. I didn't say anything, I just didn't keep up. One of my friends reached back and grabbed my sleeve. "Come on," he said. Not urgently, not scared, just automatic. He didn't even look at me when he said it. And that's when I felt it. Not fear exactly, more like discomfort, like I'd broken a rule I didn't know existed. We never joked about that street. We never dared each other to stay there longer. We didn't invent stories about it the way kids usually do. That silence was different. It felt intentional, even though none of us could explain it. The adults behaved the same way. Parents didn't wait for us there. They waited on the next block. Teachers walking home avoided it without realizing they were doing so. When cars stopped along that road, they stopped briefly and moved on. No one ever lingered, and no one ever warned us. That's what makes it unsettling in hindsight. Adults usually over-explain danger to kids. They exaggerate risks, they give rules. Here, there were none. As we got older, we started staying out later, smaller groups, sometimes alone, but the habit stayed. We still crossed the street quickly, still avoided standing still, still felt that quiet pressure to move. Years passed, people moved away. I moved away too. I didn't think about that street for a long time. Then, one night, years later, I came across a reference to it while reading old local reports online. Not a headline, not an article, just a mention buried in a document about incidents in residential areas. The address caught my eye. The report didn't describe a single crime, it described several situations: approaches, complaints, people feeling followed, people changing routes, police visits that didn't lead to arrests, statements taken and filed away. Nothing dramatic enough to make the news, just enough to make adults pay attention. That's when it made sense. The fear didn't come from imagination, it came from observation, from watching how adults behaved when they thought no one was noticing, from seeing which places they avoided without explanation. The street never changed, no signs were put up, no barriers added. Life continued as normal, and the habit stayed with us. Even now, when I walk there as an adult, I feel it, that instinctive urge to speed up, that subtle awareness in my body. My mind knows I'm safe, my body doesn't care, because it learned something a long time ago. Not from a story, not from a warning, from silence. And sometimes, silence is the clearest message of all.